Have you ever wondered, can I really change the world? I am Britney Shawley, a spiritual therapist and a Course in Miracles student and teacher, and this is my Miracle Divine Ministry, where we learn how to transform our thinking from fear to love and from pain to joy through the application of A Course in Miracles. I'm so grateful you've joined us today. In today's video, we're diving deep into how to correct our inner thoughts of fear, resentment, and doubt to actually create real, lasting change in our outer world. If you're in need of a guide and ready to step into this journey of transformation, hit that subscribe button. Let's begin. We can probably agree that when we look out into the world, the bigger picture, we see a lot of division. There's war and suffering and lack and attack and sin and pain and fear and addiction, all the grotesque things. It's a tough and scary world out there. And in the language of A Course in Miracles, it's like this because of our ego-driven thinking that we've projected onto the world, but it hasn't been corrected yet. Addressing the question, can I change the world? And if so, how, feels incredibly important. To dive into this, we'll be looking at predominantly two lessons from A Course in Miracles that can guide us in answering the question for today. But first, before we get into the practical details of how to apply these teachings to your life to come to the answer within yourself, we're needing to understand a very important teaching. The teaching that we must understand is on cause and effect. Cause and effect is the law of the universe that we cannot bypass. The law of cause and effect says that the cause is in our mind and the effect is in our experience. So if we want to change our experience, we must change our minds about it. But this law also says that we're not alone in doing this. It says that God, our creator, is the cause, and we are the effect of him because we did not create ourselves. And because we are an effect of him, we are not separate. And according to A Course in Miracles, we have been given a guide by him to direct our actions in a way that is in alignment with good and peace for all. So if we want to change the things out there, we must look to the cause in here, both the cause, mind, that needs correction, and the cause in our mind, God's voice, that we need to listen to in order to do our part in changing or saving the world. But how, right? Like, how do we go about doing that? How do we change the cause? How do we hear God's voice? How does this even happen? This is where we're going to go even deeper into these ideas. And quite frankly, A Course in Miracles tells us exactly what to do within the pages of the Course itself. So I would like to start with one particular teaching that comes from the Course, and then I'll transition to another teaching. And both of them are essential and complementary and necessary for us to understand and apply in order to understand this whole change in the world thing. So the first place that I wanted to start is the very important teachings in the Course that have to do with inner correction. We in A Course in Miracles are given 365 lessons to apply to our thinking, one lesson per day. And the first half of these 365 lessons is for inner correction, is for undoing our thinking, is for undoing the current way we see the world. And so the particular lesson that I wanted to start with is a lesson that is quite far down in the lessons, but I think it will be practical and attainable for you today, considering the topic that is at hand. So the lesson that I'm wanting us to contemplate and sit with and unpack together is this. It's from lesson 284. It says, I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt. I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt. You can elect to change them. So what this is saying right off the bat is I am responsible for my thoughts of hurt. You are responsible for your thoughts of hurt. And at any time, we can choose to change and correct all thoughts that hurt. But it starts with a decision. It starts with saying, I want to change my mind and I need to change my mind. And it also starts with realizing that source of that problem or that hurt is in my thinking. The source of that problem or that hurt is not in someone or something else. It's not what's happening in the world. It's not what people are doing in the world. The hurt is in my thinking about the world. It's in my conclusions about the world, my beliefs about the world. So we're at first becoming aware of our beliefs about the world, all of which is often tied up with, I hate this. I wish this would change. I wish this was different. This isn't good. It's all fear. It's all control. It's all etc. And so we're trying to not have our beliefs and our conclusions projected on the world. We want to see the world through new eyes. We want to see the world through the eyes of love that allows us to look on something else that is happening here instead of just the disaster of what we currently see through our physical eyes. So, this is why we must turn to our thinking to change our minds about this. Okay, so I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt. I have a little bit of an example for you that I wanted to share with you in hopes that it will inspire you to apply this in your own life and help you to understand how practical this idea is. And we'll get into more of like your homework with this idea too in a minute. But the idea of I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt, like I've already said, means it's a decision that I want to change my mind. And it is a decision that the problem of the hurt is in me and not in anybody else. But at first, we think it's in other people. So, just like with this story, a few weeks back, we had an opportunity pop up in our life on a weekend where we had some friends and some family gathering at our home. And so, on the weekend, I'm a busy bee. I'm cooking and I'm cleaning. I'm taking care of my kid. I'm trying to do all of the things. And what I realized on this particular morning is that my husband was sleeping in, which isn't something out of the ordinary. He's a hard worker, works really late at night. Sleeping in the morning is a normal thing for him. But on this particular morning, I'm so busy doing 500 things. And so what happened is my ego speaks loud and first. And immediately I'm becoming resentful that he's sleeping in. I'm tuning into this grievance that I have of like, why do you do this on days that are busy? I'm starting to have this grudge come up against my partner so that when he wakes up, I'm already upset at him, right? So he's, what have I done? I've just woken up, right? I'm sure we can all relate to some degree. And so while I'm in the busyness of it all, I didn't take time to be still, even though I teach that we should. And a lot of the time, most of the time, I do. Sometimes I don't. I'm not perfect. I'm human. So the day unfolded, I did nip my tongue and didn't let it express more than that. But I was aware of my inner hurt, basically. I was aware of my inner annoyance and resentment against my husband for not being up in the way that I thought that I needed him to be up to help. So the next day, I took some time to be quiet because it is my job to heal my own mind. So when I feel these negative emotions, I'm going to do something with it. So what I did is I sat down with this thought. I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt. I repeated this thought 3 to 5 times. I let it enter my heart and then I let my mind go free. And when my mind went free, what I saw is, wait a minute, my partner isn't the problem. He didn't do that against me. And what I realized is that, oh my goodness, I have thoughts in my mind. I had a belief that I saw in my mind that said, you must, talking to my partner, you must prove that you love me through your actions or you don't love me and you're not welcome here. So I had been telling myself this about my partner as a hidden belief that he needs to prove that he loves me with actions. Otherwise, he doesn't love me. That's crazy. It's not true. Love isn't, action is not needed for love to be present. Action is an extension of the love. But if I'm judging an action and on what someone should do or should not do, that, and I'm being upset by you doing it or not doing it, that's my responsibility. I am responsible for my hurt and my upset with that. So what I saw is, oh my gosh, that's what I learned from my parents. That's what my mom's belief was in her relationship with my dad. And I picked it up unconsciously and I've been batting it down in my mind until it got to the point where it rose up enough that I needed to do something with it. And so once I saw that conclusion, my heart softened. My compassion came for my partner. My love came for him. Forgiveness for me and for what he did not do came to my awareness. And I was able to communicate with him, extend it to him. It brought us closer. And now he knows going forward on busy weekends that he might want to wake up earlier and he will because I communicated it to him instead of being frustrated with him, instead of being resentful of him. And so I changed my mind about the situation. I elected to change my thoughts that hurt and the situation changed. So the most important thing here to remember is that we are responsible for our thoughts and our feelings, nobody else. So if we want to change the world, we must change our minds. And we must not say that someone or something has to do something different in order for me to be at peace, because that's not true. I can be at peace. I can change my mind to be at peace. I can become aware of the beliefs that I have that need changing so that I can change them and be at peace. And then when I'm at peace, it brings peace to other minds. We're tuning into some big ideas here. So let's break down this example in a practical way for you to apply it in your life. Okay. So, like I told you, I sat with this thought of I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt. And I repeated it 3 or 5 times very slowly. I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt. I can elect. And so just let yourself immerse yourself in the energy of that willingness and decision to change the thoughts that hurt. And then allow yourself to just sink a little bit deeper into that. Be in stillness, become open to the truth, and know that you will be guided to see the problem in your thinking. And then you will be guided to see the solution in your thinking too, because both the problem and the solution are right here. This is cause, remember? So just like I was shown what I was thinking, you will be shown what you are thinking. You just have to sit down and become open to that inner guidance. And sometimes that inner guidance doesn't come immediately when I'm sitting down. Sometimes it'll pop in when I'm in the shower or when I'm going for a drive or when I'm walking to go pick up my daughter or when I'm washing the dishes or when I'm scrubbing the floor. So your mind and your heart could be open to receive the answer, but you must take that time to apply this thought. Repeat this thought. Let this thought move from the head to the heart. Allow yourself to feel so moved to want to know the answer to how it is that you can heal these thoughts and to the beliefs beyond these thoughts that you will be shown exactly what you need to see the problem inside and the solution inside for your healing. The correction of thinking is through God's voice, but you must elect to change all thoughts that hurt. And genuinely, this is a big part of how we change the world because we're changing our mind about it. And when I'm more peaceful, everyone around me is more peaceful. When I've forgiven, everyone around me is more forgiven. But if I hadn't extended that realization that I had in my mind to Tom, the effects may not have lasted as long because there's a component to changing our mind that a lot of the time is missed and overlooked. And this second component of changing our mind is the part that helps it to be made readily available consistently. Instead of it being a past experience, it becomes a present experience. So to make this experience stick, you must do the second part of the course. You must do the second part of the course, which is to give as you've received. So it's the extension. And this is the part that gets forgotten in our Course in Miracles community sometimes, that they're fine being in that place of knowing that you have the power and the ability to elect to change all thoughts that hurt. But at the same time, there's an extension component. There's a giving as you receive component. So this leads to part 2 of the answer to this question, can I change the world? In the second part, it comes with a thought from the A Course in Miracles. This one is lesson 100 that says, I will accept my part in God's plan for salvation, or I will accept my part in God's plan for peace. So let's just break this down for a second. When it uses the words in A Course in Miracles like salvation, that is talking about the end goal. Where are we all going? Okay. Salvation is the end goal. And salvation in A Course in Miracles means to save and be saved. That everyone awakens to the memory that we are saved, we are healed, we are whole, we are complete, we are enough. And we all are, because we are all children, creations of our Creator. Okay. And so salvation is the happy dream. Salvation is the joy that comes from knowing what we are and what we're here for. Okay, so that's the end goal of the world. Right now, we are still reflecting war and pain and sin and death. When we change our minds, we will be extending the peace and the joy and the salvation that comes from our healed and right mind. Okay, but just like changing our mind is a decision, we must elect to change all thoughts that hurt. Changing the world is a decision. We must accept our part in God's plan for salvation. Okay. So we must decide. Decision is the power here. That's also a thought in the Course. This is the power of decision is my own. So not only are we deciding to heal our mind, but we're deciding to let that healing in our mind extend outward and to bless the world with miracles. And so in this same lesson, it also says that you are essential in God's plan for salvation of the world. Direct quote from the Course. You are essential to God's plan for salvation of the world. So in other words, you matter. You are needed. You are important. You are worthy. We need you. This is what this is saying. And the way we discover that we matter, that we are needed, that we are worthy, that we are enough is by electing to change all thoughts that hurt. And when we elect to change all thoughts that hurt, we shift from fear to love, from pain to joy, which aligns us with God's will, the universal will, which is goodness and joy and peace and love and happiness for all. And so when you heal in your mind, you are contributing to the changing of the world. But when you heal your mind and you're aligned with love, you will also be guided in changing the world. So this is that second half of the equation, that there's God's voice, the voice for love, the Holy Spirit, the inner teacher that wants to direct us through action in the world. And there's a thought in the course that confirms this. Many thoughts, hundreds of thoughts. I could put so many links below in the caption, but this is the one I'm going to bring our attention to. It's from lesson 353, which is the second half of the lesson. The second half of the lessons are about receiving to give. It's all about extending new vision. Okay. It is allowing us to see the world beyond this world. It allows us to see heaven here in place of the painful, grotesque world that is here right now. Okay. So lesson 53 says this. It says, my eyes, my tongue, my hands, my feet today have but one purpose: to be given Christ, light, to use to bless the world with miracles. This one thought is what makes changing the world not an idle wish. This one thought is what helps us to realize that changing the world is not just changing our mind, although it starts there. There's also an extension of love. There's also a giving as we've received. There's also a doing as guided. Christ, the one mind, Jesus, the light, our inner guidance system, is what needs to tell us what to do and guide us through intuition, okay, through the gut feelings, through the inner whispering guidance that we hear in our minds and feel in our beingness. We are being asked to use every aspect of this body as a vessel for love, as a vessel for God, so that God can use us and take us wherever we need to go. To me, Jesus is my demonstration of that. He was led where he needed to go and what he needed to do. And he fulfilled a mission that enables this to be so much easier for us and so far less suffering for us, and to save time for us, that this is the greatest thing we could possibly say yes to on the face of the planet. It is to transform not only us to love, but the world to love. Okay, Jesus did his part. Ours isn't going to look exactly like that. We have a part to play where God will use our eyes, our tongue, our hands, our feet to bless the world with miracles. Okay. And so this is really important, because this is not saying to do nothing and to just change your mind. This is saying you don't need to do anything to change the world until you've changed your mind, so that you can follow guidance as to what you are to do in this world. So it's change mind first, change world next. Okay. His guidance, his voice will direct us into what our particular part is to play. So, for example, when I was in my early years of mind training and listening to the voice, I have a very specific memory of me sitting on the steps of my living room. I have my living room, little tiny steps that went up to the alcove where I slept. And so I was on these steps and I was just like looking out to the living room, and I was in prayer, and I'm praying and I'm listening and I'm asking the voice. I'm asking Christ. I'm asking the inner teacher, what would you have me do? What am I here for? And I'd asked that question so many times before and never gotten an answer, because it wasn't time for an answer yet. But the second it was time for an answer, at that moment, I heard YouTube. I'm like, nope, not doing it. I don't want to do YouTube. That's not what I would choose. What are you talking about? And then the more I thought about it, the more I sat with it, the more I listened to the voice, the more I was convinced that my skills, my talents, my gifts, and my abilities would play perfectly to be on YouTube. And so right away, what did I do? If you guys have been watching me for any time, I would wake up in the morning, I would turn on my camera, I would record a message to you, I would finish it, I would upload it, and I would send it. I would not watch it again. I would not edit it, because I knew at that time I would judge myself. But the guidance was to give it. The guidance was to teach as I was learning, to give as I was receiving, and that was enough. And that started the whole ball rolling to bring me to where I am today. And what I'm saying, though, is not that YouTube is God's will for me. Peace of mind is God's will for me. And then I have a particular part to play in God's will that he will relate to me, and he has. And that's just one fraction of the whole that he has given me as my part to play in God's plan for salvation. So just like I have a particular part You have a particular part. And when I do my particular part and you do your particular part and everyone else does their particular part, we all are a puzzle piece in the puzzle of God's plan for peace. And once we've all laid our puzzles, we now will have a reflection of the healed mind, the mind of love, so we can finally experience heaven and peace on earth instead of war, pain, and conflict. Okay, this is so important. Like, he needs our hands, he needs our feet, he needs our voice, he needs our willingness to change our minds, to elect to change all thoughts that hurt. So we are cleared and we are free to do as guided. So let's bring this all back around now with a nice little bow to conclude this for how we can do this. Because this lesson that I started with in this second part of extension is I will accept my part in God's plan for salvation. So it starts with deciding that you have a part to play, even if you don't know what it is. You won't know what it is until you're ready for it, and then you will be told. But there's no room for doubt just because you haven't been told it yet. You will be told the more you demonstrate your willingness to change your mind. So, what I am going to suggest is what A Course in Miracles tells us to do with this lesson. A Course in Miracles tells us to repeat this lesson again, like we did with the first one, in the quiet of your mind, in the quiet of your heart, at least 5 times. I will accept my part in God's plan for salvation. I will accept my part in God's plan for salvation because my part is essential to God's plan for salvation of the world. So when we affirm this thought to ourselves, then what Jesus tells us to do is that on the hour, remind yourself that salvation is my only function here. And then on the half hour, remind yourself my part is essential to God's plan for salvation. And that's it. So whether you want to write these out on sticky notes or you want to put them in your phone as a reminder, if you just want to write them out on a cue card to remind yourself on the hour that salvation is your only function here. And on the half hour that your part is essential in God's plan for salvation is your declaration that you are contributing and taking part in changing the world. And that is what we need to do if we want to see peace in our minds and our relationships and for humanity. Okay, my friends. So we have been given everything we need in this 2-part protocol. 1 is to elect to change all thoughts that hurt, and 2 is to accept our part in God's plan for salvation and remind us on the hour and every half hour as part of our mind training. So, my friends, in conclusion, the answer is yes, we can change the world, but we must first seek to change our minds about the world. And then we change the world through guidance of the Holy Spirit in action, in activism, in creativity, and in practical steps that make corrective change. What's sparking your heart? Is it to forgive or to give? We need both. So let me know below in the comments if you're feeling more compelled to forgive or to give in this moment. I would love to hear from you. And if you want to stay connected with me, the first thing to do is subscribe. I put out new videos every week. And if you want to learn from another video other than my own, I recommend that you watch the interview that I did with Marianne Williamson. She's been a leader in personal and collective transformation for over 40 years. And when I interviewed her, asked her about this very topic because it's such an important one. I can't even begin to express, although hopefully you feel my heart. So I think you're going to really enjoy this interview. I've put the links up here for you to click and you can go watch it right now. But my friends, thank you so much for joining me from this video. And I very much look forward to seeing you in the next one. May we together continue to change our minds so we can change the world.